To be present, we must be intentional, and to bear fruit, we must feed the soul. You're listening to Positive and Ponder. All right, we'll start in 3, 2, 1. Hello, Ponders. Welcome back to another episode of Positive and Ponder. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for today's episode. And if you are new here and you've never heard of Positive and Ponder is a podcast where we talk about everything and anything in the aim to give you some perspective, some encouragement, some hope from the stories of other people. And I'm so excited for today. We are continuing the Flourishing Together series, which I have started in theme of, spring and the weather getting warmer. And, just like plants, just like trees, just like flowers, we too, humans, grow and need certain things in our life to maintain that growth and flourishment. And that's why I was inspired to gather some stories of the people that I know personally, that I see that be exemplified and be reflected through their stories and personal experiences. And speaking of special guests, today I have with me Jeff Moss, who I also call Brother Jeff, who is a church mate of mine. And I'm so excited to have you because I know your story itself from just knowing you for many years and watching your posts on social media. Definitely reflects stories of growth and transformation, and is very inspiring, and it connects to people emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And so I'm so excited to have you this morning. Good morning, and how are you today?
Thank you for having me, Pauline. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here today and to be able to use my platform to share your story, as I know a lot of people will gain some value from it. But before I have you introduce yourself more in depth, I wanted to start off by reading your main message, which I got from your website, Rediscovered Life, which was simple but beautifully written. So I'll just read it from there.
Okay.
A life rediscovered, promoting a healthy lifestyle for the whole person, spirit, soul, and body. As a former pastor, I understand the importance of being spiritually strong. As someone who has lost over 100 pounds, I know the struggles to be physically fit. As a person who went through a period of depression that nearly killed me, I can empathize with those struggling emotionally. It is my hope to give advice and encouragement to others struggling in any of these areas so they can enjoy a full, completely balanced life. That is so wonderful. So yes, please elaborate more about this mission, this vision, this message that you have.
It's basically just living out my life from my experiences that I've gone through and have overcome, and I want to be an encouragement to others to be able to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much you want me to get into the past.
Share as much as, we can start from the beginning.
Okay, well, I was married for 28 years. I was involved in the church since childhood. For 10 years, I was an adult Bible Sunday school teacher and Wednesday night teacher. Was very loved to teach so much, and so much so that I ended up becoming ordained and becoming a pastor. And for 5 years, I was a pastor. Had my own church. Started it pretty much from scratch. Was given took over from another church planner who had 3 people, and we grew it to a church in the 30s and 40s. So, but my wife of 28 years found her high school boyfriend and moved down to Georgia with him, which I tried to save the marriage for about 8 months, but all it did was spiral me into this depression. I left the ministry, ended up having 3 heart attacks, and then due to a medical complication that induced the last heart attack and induced a blood clot that went from my ankle all the way to my waist. My leg was 3 times bigger than it normally was, and I ended up in the hospital for 11 days having a procedure to try to remove the blood clot. And laying there, I realized I needed to let go of the past and start over. And that at that point, I said, my first life is over. It's done. Now I'm starting my second life. So it's been a journey.
Yeah.
And just because you say, okay, I'm going to do this over, doesn't mean that you have all the answers. I didn't know what my future held. I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. And there were obstacles along the way, because after that, I had met Shirley, my wife, actually within a month after that.
Oh, really? That's soon.
Yeah, we were both on a dating site, but...
Was this after your decision to, like,
Start
let
over.
go? Start over, okay.
Yeah, within a month after deciding that.
Okay, yeah.
I was just browsing at that point. I had given up. I was going to shut down the dating site, and Shirley told me later she was going to do the same thing. And she said hello to me first, and then her first question what got my attention was, "Are you a Christian?"
Wow.
Because nobody on dating sites says that kind of stuff. Are you a Christian?
Unless you're on Christian Mingle.
Yeah, so that's how we met. But after we started dating, I started gaining weight.
Wow.
I was gaining like at least 5 pounds a week.
Wow.
It was to step back, I was always overweight. But when I was going through trying to save my first marriage, I lost like 40 pounds because without dieting or anything. I just
Starving.
the stress.
Yeah.
No, I was eating. I was the stress.
Wow.
I think my adrenaline had just gone into overtime.
Oh, wow.
So after all that was over, what had happened, I found out several months later, was my thyroid just couldn't take it anymore and stopped. So I needed medication. I went up to 280 pounds. By the time I married Shirley, I was like 265 and just stayed roughly around there. Even though the thyroid was settled and I wasn't gaining it anymore, my weight was just, which I was about that before everything happened.
What do you think the cause of that was?
I think the stress, the adrenaline, everything, the thyroid was working overtime for 8 months. And it's still enlarged. It's been tested. I don't have any danger with it, but I'm going to forever be on thyroid medicine to keep it at bay so that my metabolism.
So it is the result of the months prior to
I'm
that.
sure it's
Interesting. I never heard of that.
Well, even the heart attacks, they say, my health wasn't the greatest, but at the same time, the emotional response causes physical problems. Your body, your emotions, your spirit, all of that's interconnected. So if you've got a problem in one area, it's going to affect the other 2 areas.
Yes.
It's going to affect you spiritually if you're emotionally having problems. It's going to affect you emotionally if you've got physical problems. So that's why I, like on my website, you need to work on all three areas of your life, not just one. I mean, you can have a natural gift in one area. Some athletes are naturally gifted,
Yeah.
but they're not emotionally sound if they don't actually work on it. So we need to always be working on all three areas.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of like mental discipline too. Because I was going to ask, like, was it just about, so I guess fast forward to, you going through all these medical issues and finding out all of this, and now intentionally, like, you had to make decisions. You had to restrain yourself from stuff.
Yeah.
So what was that process like?
Well, it got to a point, I was at church one time and somebody snapped a picture of me and then ended up on Facebook. And I saw it and I said, that's not me. I was so bloated. And it's like, I can't be this way anymore. And so at first I was like, okay, have my thyroid tested again. It did need an adjustment. But then I spoke to the doctor about what can I do to lose weight? How can I do it? And her advice was she was going to have me schedule with a nutritionist, some pretty well-known one apparently, but it took 2 months to schedule an appointment. In the meantime, I started doing research and finding out things, and I found an app on my phone called Lose It. And I knew, because I used to read bodybuilding magazines and things like that when I was younger, I knew less calories, you could lose weight. You need a calorie deficiency to lose weight, no matter how you do it. That's how you lose weight. But it's hard to track calories.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
I remember trying to track calories back in the 80s when I was younger, and it was like, back then you didn't have apps.
Yeah,
so
couldn't count your macros.
to count and open the books up and okay, carrots is how many calories, But this app made it easy.
Yeah.
Because you just opened it up, you typed in what you had, how much of a amount portion you had, and it calculates it out for you. And it even, if you're having like packaged foods, all you have to do is scan it, and it tells you how many calories is in that package.
Right.
So I started counting calories, and before the time came for me to have that appointment with the nutritionist, I had already lost 10 pounds.
Wow.
And I was like, I can do this myself.
Yeah.
So I started exercising. I started setting small goals. One of the things is, my first goal was 90 pounds. But to get to 90 pounds, I started at 15 pounds was my first goal. So I wanted to go from 288 to 173. So 173 273 became my first goal. And then 15 pounds lower once I hit that goal, and then 15 pounds lower. And so you hit these short-term goals, and you give yourself leeway if you make mistakes. I always say, that every day is a new start.
Yes.
So if you blew it on your diet the day before, you start the next day all over again. And I really it took me 3 years to lose the weight. But I didn't pressure myself during Christmas. I tried to not gain any weight. So I watched it somewhat, but if I had a cookie or two during Christmas, that was fine.
Yeah.
And then when January hit, get back on the horse and lose the weight. And I tell you what, it has made a world of difference physically.
Yeah, we can see it.
Well, not only the physical aspect, but my blood pressure is now way normal, almost a little bit low. My pulse rate the resting pulse rate is in the upper 50s, low 60s.
Wow.
when going into the church, you have to go up those steps.
Yes.
I was hanging onto the guardrail, pulling myself up
Oh,
because my knees
wow.
hurt so bad.
Oh, man.
Now I can go up and down freely.
Yeah.
The pain is gone.
Wow.
One thing people with weight don't realize is for every pound of extra weight you're carrying, you put 4 pounds of pressure on your knees.
Mm.
So that 4 pounds of pressure, I mean, I lost 113 total was what I lost.
Mm-hmm.
So you think 400 pounds of pressure off my knees.
Jeez. Jeez. And someone asks you to carry a chair, like a
Yeah.
table up the stairs. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Wow. Well, it was just really refreshing to hear you say that. You gave yourself some grace, within your process. And I think, me including, sometimes we will go through relapse or, our consistency stops because we add so much pressure and expectations and our goals are way too high.
That's because we're human.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
We will make mistakes, that we will blow it from time to time.
Yes.
But that's where we have to say, okay, so what? We'll get right back to it.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like, I mean, you already kind of talked about it, but, going back to, the theme of this series is flourishing, and we go through seasons, right? And I'm sure it wasn't always, like you said, it wasn't always a linear, completely straight line going to reach your goal. I'm sure you went through many ups and downs.
Well, yeah. I'm just reaching where I really want to be now, and it's taken me 10 years.
Yeah. That's so interesting, because, so would you say that losing the weight, like the physicality, I'm sure that's a major factor of what motivated you, but was it just that pushed you? You know what I mean? Because there's, like you said, it's all areas that get affected.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it pushed me into doing the blog I do now. When I lost the weight, I gained the encouragement I could share my story.
Exactly, yeah.
And being a former pastor and being a one who liked teaching and not having opportunities really to teach, this became my outlet to share. So I started the blog. That's the first thing I started after losing the weight. And the first 15 blogs were all about weight loss. And then I started expanding out to spiritual things that I've worked on, some emotional stuff about dealing with emotions, just working on expanding that. And then I needed to get a second job at one point, and I said, well, what better thing to do than to get into working at a gym. So I made up a resume just for gyms and had a before and after picture on the
That's
resume.
All you need. That is all you need.
How much I'd gained and how much I lost after 3 years.
Yeah.
I've took it around and to like 4 gyms, and I handed one right to the manager. I didn't realize he was the manager at the time at Planet Fitness, and he's someone who had lost like 80 pounds himself. So when he saw that, he called me in for an interview, and I started working part-time with them.
Nice.
And finally this year, I decided after 2 years with Planet Fitness part-time, I moved to full-time. So now I'm a full-time employee there. And yesterday, that manager I handed the resume to, he is now regional manager. And I was called into the office, and he got on a phone, like FaceTime type thing, or Zoom, with me and the present manager and assistant manager, and they said they want me to be the backup trainer They see that where my passion is, and they say you can hire people who want the job just to make money, but you can't always find the person who has the passion for it.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
they realize I have the passion for it, so they're all for having me train up. And it's nice that they look at me that way, because I mean, you teased me earlier about can't be 60, but I'm 60 years old, and I'm feeling like I'm much younger than that these days.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I was just thinking, just you sharing your life, like how your life really had a a full circle, because you started off with teaching, and you're still teaching, but just in a whole new purpose and a whole different reason.
But the funny thing is, like I said, everything's interconnected.
Yes. Yeah.
So even though I'm teaching physical health now, there's a lot of the same principles that you would teach with spiritual health.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it doesn't negate what I can do online. I've got so many things I'm planning on doing. This book, I'm working on a book about my life, which I'm halfway done. But I've already got like 8 books in mind. I have a couple sermon series that I want to release. That
you should have a podcast. You really should, because you're just taking this podcast like to a whole level. Like, I think you should just lead it right now.
Yeah. I've got I did like a 12-part sermon series on God's will for your life. And it's not what you think. Everybody thinks, what's God's will for my life? What job does he want? What woman or man should I marry? No, God's will for your life is to live a holy life. To live righteous before him. You do that, all those other things will fall into place.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And it's beautiful how he has orchestrated your life in such a way that you would not be teaching, you would not be sharing where you are today if you had not gone through that depressive moment.
No.
Yeah.
Once you've experienced something like that and gotten to the other side of it, you realize it was all meant to be.
Yeah.
And you really understand the scripture passage that says all things work together for good.
Yes.
Even the bad.
Yep. Absolutely. Of course, it's been not even that long, but it's been quite some years since that transformative moment. Actually, I had a thought actually this morning. Actually, last night, and it's just coming back to me. So I don't know if this is true or not. It's just a thing people say, but they say that when you sing to plants, that it grows faster. But that's just, people just say that. So for this case, we'll just say that is true, right? So I'm sure if you care to share a little bit more about, going back, you went through moments of depression, and I think you mentioned before in your sermon you were also had suicidal thoughts as well.
Well, it wasn't so much I wouldn't have purposefully taken my life, but there were times where I didn't care whether I lived or died.
Yeah.
There were times where it was like I felt like I was completely alone in the world. You see, my first wife was also my first girlfriend. And being overweight as a teenager, no girls would be interested in me. So I just thought that I was unloved. And when she turned on me, then I really started all those bad thoughts of no one's ever going to love me, no one's ever going to care for me. That just started eating at me until when I started having physical issues, it was like, okay, I'm having a heart attack. I mean, the funny thing is, the first heart attack, she was still there. I didn't even go to the hospital. I found out later, oh, yeah, you've had a heart attack before.
Oh, wow.
When they did a test, when I went in for the second heart attack.
Wow. Wow.
But and on that first heart attack, when they did a test, they found out God's got amazing way He works with the physical body.
Mm.
Apparently, they found I had 100% blockage
Wow.
that I didn't go into the hospital for, and the heart built a whole new artery around it. You can see from a photo that it makes a turn.
Oh wow. Wow.
So it rebuilt itself.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
like I say, God, He did
That is
He
gave me
did some
chills.
amazing things.
Yeah.
But I went through a time period where He had to work with me
Hmm.
because and now I know, I thought He abandoned me. Here I was working as a pastor. Here I was trying to do the right thing. I was
Hmm.
trying to be the best example I could be for my congregation. And then all this happens and I just lost it. And I said, okay, well, if being the best still ends up like this, I might as well go out and do whatever I want.
Hmm.
And in my depression, I did some behavior that I'm not proud of.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why I brought up about you know, the saying that when you sing to a plant, it grows faster. So I'm sure you had to switch in how you spoke to yourself and how you saw yourself. And for you, what did that sound like afterwards?
Hmm. You mean as far as looking at myself in a positive light?
Yes.
That took a while. That
Mm-hmm.
still took a while. Um, the good thing about when you stay in the Word, it reminds you that you are a child of God.
Mm.
It reminds you that you were important enough that God sent Jesus to die for you. So that makes you important. And that's the first step to realizing your importance.
Mm.
But to reflect on
Just to emphasize.
to reflect on seeing yourself in the right light, it took me until I was losing the weight and looking at myself and having people say, "You've lost a ton of weight." And I remember the first time I was still feeling like I was in the process of losing. I still felt overweight, and
Mm.
Richie was up front and said during like a sermon, she said, "Amazing what you, Brother Jeff did." She was
Aw.
making using me as an illustration for her sermon. It's like,
She
I
doesn't
guess
do
I
that.
have lost weight.
Yeah.
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 Sometimes you don't realize, and it took a while for me to gain acceptance of that.
Because it's really like reconditioning your mind.
Yeah, it is. It is,
Yeah.
especially when you've lived your entire life. I mean, I was about as wide as I was tall when I was 1 year old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, complete transformation and everything.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So leading up to this point, what has helped you, and you talked about it briefly, but if you can share more about how you've been able, because in your message it says you want to help people live a more balanced life. And I think we talked about it previously when we were at Starbucks, like how it's sometimes difficult to keep everything, you know, balanced with work, keeping up with bills and everything. So how do you personally maintain a grounded and balanced life?
Um,
And this can be in general, you know.
well, you've got the three parts of you. I believe that just like there is a trinity in God, there is a trinity of man.
Is that why your logo is a triangle?
Yep.
Nice.
Uh, we are a spirit, soul, and body.
Yes.
The body, of course, is our physical aspect. Our soul is our emotions, our mind, emotions, and will.
Mm.
What makes us unique. And then spirit is that part of us that connects with God through communion, through intuition, through our conscience. Yeah. But that we need to balance those three first, so that when we're dealing with day to day, we don't fly off the handle emotionally. We don't have to worry about having too much on our plate, because we can balance our life. Know when our limitations are, because we know how much our body can handle. We can know how much our emotions can handle. But our health in those three areas are vital. And once you have the health in those three areas balanced, the rest is details.
Yeah.
Work and home and that's details.
Yeah.
Which I do. I use things like, I'm sure you do too, checklists to make sure, keep track of what you're doing.
Yes.
What needs to be done today.
For sure.
But our health is the first thing, because without being emotionally healthy or physically healthy or spiritually healthy, nothing else matters. I mean, think of people who become workaholics.
Yeah.
All their life is nothing but work. They're not healthy.
Yeah. And then in the world that, we live in, or trained or conditioned or shown on social media of how we should live and how we should work, it's just not.
It's not the truth.
It's not. Yeah. I've had moments of that too. Like, it's definitely trial and error, because like you'll physically feel it, and then everything else will follow and follow with that if we aren't grounded. And I think it's so important to also always keep your core values and what's really important to you, to be able to live intentionally, and rather than living how everyone else is. Just like how a workout plan, like we have all different types of bodies, right? Different body types. And so just because there's one workout that helped someone lose weight does not mean that's necessarily for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just the same way, and then that's amazing. That's a great way of sharing and showing that. And so my last question, but it's like kind of like a 3-part last question. I'm asking all of my guest speakers for this series on this. It's called It's called Rose, Bud, and Thorn. I don't know if you've heard it before. It's kind of like an icebreaker thing for people, where a rose is something that you're grateful for. A bud is something that you are looking forward to. And a thorn is something you'd like to work on. And you can go in whatever order you'd like.
Oh, boy. So, a rose is something I'm thankful for?
Yes.
I'm thankful that at this point in my life, I am doing so well physically and emotionally that I'm at a point that I've never thought I'd be at 60. I mean, I can show you a picture from like 12 years difference. I actually look physically younger.
You're going back.
Yeah, I'm going backwards. My health is the best it's ever been, and I'm working on building more muscle now here so that I can be even stronger.
Yes.
The thorn is what?
The thorn is something you'd like to work on in general. As I think you also have areas.
We always got so much. Where do I start? Like I said, I'm working on my physical body. I can't gain muscle as quickly as I'd like to. I want to work on my books. I want to get them done. Yes. I want to work on my website to get it, monetize it, and get more viewers. Get somebody who knows SEO to get the Google out there. My girl right there. There's
A lot.
ton of things that you can
But
work
it's
on.
really, that's why I asked, because it's really good to practice you saying these things, because, you know, it helps us, you know.
Yeah.
It's good that we should know what we need to work on, because there's always room for improvement.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I was talking with my managers the other day. Though there is a, you know how we have at the church the core values.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Planet Fitness has its house of values, and one of the house of values is constantly improving.
Wow.
Never stop improving.
Nice.
And that is part of life. You can't stop trying to improve. I mean, I lost 113 pounds. Yay. What do I do next?
Right.
Because I can't, I got to maintain it.
Yes.
I realized I needed more muscle. You know,
You can't stay there.
you can't stay. And once
Yeah.
you attain the next point, set another goal.
Yes.
You got to keep, it's not, and it's not bad to always have goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some people like, just a sidebar,
Mm-hmm.
the reason people fail with diets, they lose the weight, and then next thing you know, they put it all back on.
Yeah.
It's because they're trying to reach the end of the goal and be done, and then they go back to exactly what put them in that state in the first place. What you have to do is reach the goal, but then learn from getting to that goal what you need to do to maintain that goal. You can't go back.
Yeah.
You go back, you'll be in worse shape than you were in the first place.
Right.
So it's not a goal-driven thing, but it's a lifestyle
Yes.
that you have to live.
Absolutely.
So that's
your big thorn. Many thorns.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the last one was
Bud, which is something you're looking forward to.
well, I've got a lot of things going on. Like I said, with the website, I had 4 goals for this year. 1, go full-time with Planet Fitness. 2, to monetize the website. 3, to finish my book. I really want to share that book. And 4 is hopefully have gotten myself in enough physical shape that by the end of August I can go to the beach and have a photo shoot.
Wow, that's a great goal.
So
And make it a calendar for Tita Shirley. Oh, that's wonderful. A wonderful goal that you have.
well, I had a hero, the ideal physical type that
Yeah.
I've had since the 1980s. And it's not an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Actually, it was the guy who played Hercules back in the 1950s, before steroids and all. A guy named Steve Reeves. He has what I would consider an attainable physique.
Yeah.
So it's always been, for 40 years, that's kind of been the goal shape that I wanted to try to attain, even if it not quite, but close.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going for. There's a lot of pictures of him like at the beach making poses, and I thought, what better way to reach my zenith than to copy his poses?
Yes. Tita Shirley's own Reeves. Oh, well, we're looking forward to that. You reaching those goals, and like you said, it's gonna take it's a process. It's like, it doesn't happen overnight. But as long as and I feel like God also like reveals new goals within that moment.
Oh, yeah.
New, discoveries. And sometimes you discover, oh, maybe I didn't necessarily need to achieve that goal because I've attained something before that I actually needed,
And the thing is, 5 years ago, you would have told me I would have been sitting here promoting health like I am.
Yeah.
I was just like had lost 40 pounds. I was like at that point. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought I would be like this at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So
sure.
things change and evolve over time.
Yes, yes. And you have many, many years. I believe you do. Well, thank you so much, Brother Jeff, for being here. Thank you for taking this time to talk to my audience. And
Sure.
I'm so inspired by your story, and I know many other people will. Huge shout out for Tita Shirley sticking by this man's side since the beginning, even before the transformation, right? Like,
Yeah, well, that was one thing that impressed me with her.
Yeah.
Is even though I had actually gained weight after we started dating, she stuck by me. So
that's a loyal one. Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything to share with my audience, like how they can reach you, how they can learn more?
If you go to online to www.liferediscoveredblog.com, you can find my blogs there. I'm never sure about how well I can speak like on a podcast, so I prefer
Are you kidding
writing.
me? Literally?
I like writing.
Right now. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like podcasts are an easier way to start too. And you don't need video either. That's how I started, just audio.
Yeah.
And you are so consistent with your blogs that you can even just transform them and just reiterate, what you said in all of those blogs, and it's great to just document life, same way blogs do podcasts. Yeah. And it's great to look back on your life over the years, all those archives. So,
well, I'll leave that to you for the time being.
Yeah, well, we'll see where you are.
We'll see where I am in 5 years.
Yeah, and maybe those right people will come to you and support you. And I believe and I hope, with whatever I can, if there's anyone I see in my life that I see great potential in and sees and are so passionate about, their particular message. Like, I try my best to showcase them because it's so important. We're voices in this world, and I know what it feels like when it isn't heard, or maybe not many people have accessibility to resources like this and conversations like this. So it's a huge honor to have you here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast and this episode, please don't forget to subscribe on all major platforms, podcast platforms. We are also going to have this on YouTube as well. Please do not forget to put on your bell notifications, as you'll miss everything if you do not, apparently, on YouTube. And we have a lot in store coming this spring, this summer, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, please follow us on social medias, on Instagram, pause.sip.ponder. Follow me and Mary on our individual accounts. All of that will be in the description. But thank you guys so much. Remember to always aim to flourish, to grow, as we are all growing beings. And don't forget, guys, to always love, to always be don't forget to always love, to always be curious, and to always ponder. Bye.